scene is so beautiful, that opening scene for Maddie, like the way it's painted. I had my first session the first day of lockdown. I was panicking about that. Is this project still going to go ahead?
Were parts of the script were already mentioned or some things were hidden?
I had no idea. I didn't think there was any other agenda there. I think there was a bit of a more womanly look to her at the beginning, and then she got really cutesy.
People actually found a frame
that's really sinister and dark. Woo! Give it up for Maddie.
Give it up for Maddie. What a wonderful character. I gotta say, congratulations for the amazing successes Arcane has been getting. Season 2, mind-blowing. Everybody has been listening to songs, binge watching it, completely going crazy watching the show. How has it been for you?
Oh, thanks, Abhi. It's been surreal and amazing. I knew it was going to be an exciting time and I knew it was going to be a big deal, but it's definitely exceeded all of my expectations. It's been absolutely mad. Like, what do you think?
Oh, it's just crazy. I have to say, everybody's waiting for it. And when it finally you see it, and when the first few frames of this episode and the music hits, and okay, we are in for a ride for this one. It's just, it's so good.
The soundtrack,
I know.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it so good?
It's just, I'm so happy that a lot of people are so happy that finally Arcane's intro song, full version is out. My God, where was that for all this time? And people waited for 3 years for that intro song.
Wait. Was the intro song not out in its full version?
It wasn't out until now. It came out after the third act was out. Then they released it. That's great.
I had no idea.
Crazy.
What?
Yes. Everybody was going because I just randomly was on YouTube and then it said Enemy, Arcane from season 2. I'm like, what do you mean Enemy? And then I clicked on it. Was 3 minutes.
What do you mean Enemy? What does it mean?
What does it mean? And then I watched. I was 3 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I was in loop.
Isn't Enemy the best song?
It's great. It's a great song. Loved it. Loved every single song in this show. Season 1, season 2, both included. Such a good, just a loopable album at this point.
It is a loopable album, and it's there's just lots of variety. And all of the. And I think Christian, who created the show, comes from a musical background. He was in a pop band.
Yeah, right.
And brought all of that influence with him into the show. You can feel it, Yeah, in every sort of frame of the show. I mean, it's incredible. So I've been loving the soundtrack. I've been having little dance parties to at home to the soundtrack. I'm loving it. I listen to the soundtrack at the gym and all that. Just love it.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many songs that I just listen to again and again over time. It's just I gotta say this whole the season with the premiere. I know you guys were there with all the actors together on the first day. How was that like for you to be in the premiere with all these people around, showcasing the first 3 episodes, I believe?
It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying because I've done bits stuff like that, red carpet stuff in the past, but it's not really my thing. It's quite nerve-wracking to have the spotlight like that in it. And I know you have the spotlight when you're in a project, but this is totally different. And you got all the cameras and there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide, basically. And actually, when I was at the premiere, I had a drink. Every time I was going to the bar to get a drink, there would be another event. So I ended up hiding my drinks behind the red carpet, like the trashy Glaswegian that I am. I was like, you can't take the lassie out of Glasgow. I was hiding my drinks behind the thing. And I was surprised at how, I knew it was going to be, I knew the premiere event was going to be a spectacle, but there was just a feeling when we went in for the screening, there was a feeling in that room that I can't even describe, with everyone coming together to celebrate the opening of the show. And it was we all became one for a moment when we were experiencing it together, and it was just mind-blowing. I got to meet some of the other actors because, as you probably know, we're kind of kept away isolated. So I got to meet members of the cast that I hadn't met before, which was most, not all of them, but most of them. And so that was really cool as well. I got to meet members of the team that I hadn't, there's a whole gigantic team of people, obviously, that brought this entire production together. And you don't know who they are. Like, you maybe see names floating around in emails or hear things, but to actually have faces to put to the name and be able to shake hands with these people that were responsible for making this incredible thing, that was cool too. It was just a really big, sparkly, fun event. I had a great time there. Honestly, it was really fun.
Yeah, wow. I cannot imagine how that feeling must be. Like, it must be such a great feeling to not only be in like in that premiere, meeting all these actors and creators from the team, and then also getting to like all these people getting to watch it like as well. Like, such a great experience. I loved every part of it. And there's one thing that I think came out from that, which was kind of became popular as well, where I think this happened kind of later on. And when the last act came, when I remember the last 3 episodes, third act also had like a screening. And so I remember a couple cosplayers went in cosplaying as Cait and Maddie. And they came,
I know. That was Act 2. That was Act 2, I think. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the cheeky reveals from Act 2. Did you see their reaction?
Yeah. That's a reaction.
That was really funny. That was really, really funny.
Yeah.
I've really loved seeing all the, because one of the many amazing things about Arcane is they've made this such a global celebration.
Yeah.
They've created events for this show all over the world. And I think that one might have been, I think it was in England, but it was these cosplayers, the Cait and Maddie cosplayers reacting to that opening scene, and no one saw it coming. No, and that was part of it was so cheeky and it was so fun. And I loved it. I loved seeing their reaction to that.
It was so good. Oh my God. The people are talking about it so much. And I loved every single second of all these acts. Everything was a surprise in every act. To be honest, with every single episode, there was a surprise. There was that factor. But as you mentioned, like one of the things, like it is celebrated across the world. People, celebrate in their own ways. And one of the coolest things that I find with all these projects is where people celebrate it with art. And you must have seen fan arts of Maddie, different kinds.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, can you draw or paint? Because I can't do any of that stuff.
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazingly unique skill that very few people have, I think. And to see people putting their time and talent and energy into creating these beautiful pieces and then sharing them with the world, it's kind of spectacular that Arcane has inspired so much incredible art. And I've loved all the Maddie fan art.
Yeah.
So much. And it's actually funny. It's funny, because every artist is so unique. So it's interesting to see how each artist interprets her in different ways and brings out different sides to her. Like, there's a lot of very cutesy Maddie art, and then there's more mischievous stuff. Then there's stuff that's a little darker. But I love that, because it's these characters are also open for interpretation, and you can build on them and make them who you want them to be as well. There's just so much to work with, and they're so rich and profound, these characters. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the fan art very, very much. I'm in total awe. Someone I had in my live stream, I did an Insta live stream that I told you about earlier, that was chaotic. And talking about, bringing people together all over the world. There was people like someone videoed in from like the Amazonian like rainforest, and then there was someone from Japan, and then there was someone from Australia who were into the show, and then someone had created keyrings, Maddie keyrings, just like kind of put this design together, and it was amazing to me. I mean, this is something I've been in awe in with every project I've been part of, but especially Arcane, is that how it brings people together from all over the world, based on their commonalities and love for the show. I mean, it's just incredible the community that has evolved around this project.
So good. Wow, that's so crazy. Like, to have different kind of things that people create for characters, for the show, for like a couple of characters together. Like, it's just so cool to see so much creativity around. I'm like, my God, I can never do that. I think I'm going to draw like, the stick figures that I can draw. But like,
I can barely draw it. When I do this, like the lines don't even like sync. I'm like, this is terrible. It's just a skill I never nurtured or do you know what I think? I think I wanted to be a good artist, and I think some teacher said, "Oh, you can't draw. You're not. All it takes is for someone to be like, you're not." And it's funny because there was one kind of youngster that came into the live chat yesterday who wanted to be an artist, but had said that their teacher had said their art was not very good, and it showed the art, and the art was very good. And so it just goes to show you, you know, how influential teachers are and how we need to be careful with how critical we are of youngsters, because it can, you know, it can sort of like kill their joy for all kinds of things, you know. It's a very delicate subject. And so so that's my sob story about why I'm not an artist. But actually, I'm just blaming a teacher. I really am not a good. I'm really not a good artist. I'm not.
To be honest, it started from the teacher. So I mean, I would still blame the teacher.
I'm still holding the grudge.
Still holding the grudge.
Yeah, exactly. Haven't forgotten you.
I've forgotten
Mrs.
you.
Henry. I just said her name. Whatever. Mrs. Henry, primary 6. I remember what you did.
So cool. I mean, I would love to know, like, how long ago was it when you found out that, okay, I'm going to be working for Arcane?
Do you know, it was like, so I'm trying to remember, because the pandemic was sucked us into a vortex of nothingness. And I feel like, well, those are years that kind of didn't count, but also they did count, and they totally happened. And so therefore it must be like 4.5 years ago. I think 4.5 or 5 years ago, it was actually, I first heard about the project and that potentially I'd be able to read for the project in 2019.
Wow.
So it was a while ago. And then I auditioned, I think I auditioned either at the end of 2019 or it might have been very early. I think it was very early 2020. Months before our lives changed forever. And I had my first session the first day of lockdown.
Wow. Wow. Crazy.
And then everything shut down for months and months. And I didn't have a second session till the end of the year. And then it sort of sporadically over those kind of few years. It was a long time ago. And I know I've said this in other interviews, but what's really interesting about how I got the role of Maddie was it actually came through a connection with one of the producers on the show, Amanda Overton, who years ago, I want to say like a decade ago, I auditioned. I was new to LA and I auditioned for a short film she was doing and I didn't get it. And then she came back like, maybe a year later, I don't know if it was that long, to ask me if I would take part in a staged reading for a screenplay she'd written, because she was trying to get this screenplay made and she was a passionate writer. And it was a really good screenplay, but it never got made. But I remember going to the reading and reading for one of the parts for like an audience. And literally years passed, and suddenly she reached out and said, "Oh, hi, do you remember me, Amanda? I'm a writer. I'm writing for a TV show now." She said, "I'm writing for this animated show now. I've been a gamer for years. I'm familiar with your work. And I've been writing this one character and I keep hearing your voice kind of in my mind when I'm writing this role. Like, is this something, would you want to audition? Or are you interested?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm interested. Like, that'd be amazing." And I went along to Riot, I think the end of 2019, to see a screening of the pilot of season 1 before it had been released.
Wow.
And it was just this little screening room. And I think it was Amanda, myself, Alex is one of the writers on the show, I think, a couple others but that was my first time seeing Arcane, and it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. I mean, it was like, and it was still not full. I think it was parts of it wasn't fully polished. I think there was a couple of parts they had to tweak, but it was like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, this is the most astonishing thing I've ever seen. The visuals and the music and the introduction to these characters. And it was really moving to me. And I thought, this isn't just any animated show. This is something so, I thought this is something that's completely out of the universe.
Yeah.
Out of this universe, fantastic. Like, it's on a different level. And then I really wanted the role. But there's only, Amanda had written the role kind of with me in mind, but I still had to go through the audition process. Because unless you're a really big star or a celebrity name, you don't just get stuff handed to you. And I'm fine. I mean, I knew I was going to have to try and win the role and go through the audition process. And that was very thorough. There was a lot of workshopping scenes, and they wanted to make sure that they got the character right, and they wanted you to bring as much as you can to the character, because that's, if you get cast, that was then going to shape how the character becomes, And so, but I remember it got down to me and quite a well-known actress, like quite a more famous actress, and that's happened a few times over, well, a lot actually over my career, and I've not gotten the role. Oh, damn it. But yeah, it's happened over and over, and it's not landed to me. It's landed to a more famous actor, and so I was worried at that point. I thought, I don't think I'm going to get this. I think it's going to go to the other girl, but then it didn't. Then I got a call to say I got it, and I was like, yes. And I got to call Amanda and tell her that they'd offered me the role, which was really, really exciting. And then she was excited, and so that's how it came about. So it really came about from a connection. It kind of just goes to show how you can have a connection with someone, or a creative connection, and years later it can come back in a full circle, and you get the opportunity. There's no wasted opportunities, right? Like everything's very cyclical to me, and things often do come back. And Amanda's a very special person. She's done this with a few actors, and she's supported, and she's remembered their talents or their passions in a particular role, and she's brought them back to do things. And that's something very special about her, because not everyone does that.
True. Yeah. Well, thanks to Amanda, like, for bringing you in on this role. Like, so cool to know that, because the connection, because of what you'd done before, because of what the relationship you had, it after years later, you now are part of one of the biggest animated shows in the world right now, which is like, it's so huge, and it's so wonderful, and you have done such an incredible job playing that role. We'll talk about later on how, and so it's just wonderful to see that you got to know about Arcane before, like, any of us who got to see it. You saw a small part of it, and then you got to know that you're going to be playing that character such a long time ago. I'm curious because in video games that you've worked on, like, obviously as a voice actor, you go into the studio and then you get to know, like, what you have to record. But
yeah.
In case of Arcane, was that similar, or were parts of the script were already mentioned, or some things were hidden? How was it?
No, we got the scripts in advance. That's one of the sort of luxuries of working on like an animated project, or a project like Arcane, because there's been, big video games I've worked on where you don't get a lot of information about the character, and you also don't get the script in advance. I think some of that changed because there was a strike in 2017, a voice actor strike, and I think something that was won in the strike was a little more transparency, and the ability to get those scripts and things a little bit earlier, because it always used to be that you would kind of just show up at the studio, put your headphones on, and lines would just show up on the screen, and you would just say them like a cold reach. You would just say them for the first time as you saw them, and then they would get put into the game, and there wasn't really a lot of time to the whole creative process of developing the character and understanding the dialogue was omitted, because it was just like, you're just reading these cold lines, and you just had to do your best to make them sound believable, and sometimes you didn't get a lot of context and stuff, and so that was always really challenging. And so they're a little bit better, not always though in games, but they're a little bit better at maybe showing the script in advance. But this was certainly something that was really enjoyable about Arcane, is you got the script in advance, and there was it opened a conversation with like the creative team or the director. There was time to play with the dialogue and with the character and with these lines in the studio, and that was just such a luxury, because as a perfectionist who can't cope, I can't cope. It's something, I mean, if I don't think I've given something 100%, it plagues me. It plagues me for eternity. I just can't, it's something that really bothers me. And so to be able to sort of give something your all and have the time and space to play and explore these characters and build, it was very cooperative building of characters together between you and the team and the animators, was pure luxury, pure joy. And hopefully that comes through in the final piece, because I do feel like Arcane is a masterpiece, and there's brilliant performances, which are obviously a component of that. And certainly having brilliant director and a brilliant team, fantastic animators, and of course, great writing. It's really in the writing, right? That's the that it excels as well. So yeah, it was a total luxury. I would love to keep working like that in the future. I'd love to do more projects where I can work in that way. It's very satisfying, especially for me, like coming from background of theatre and things, where the creative process of the craft is where the sort of all the self-discovery and the joy is. So when that's taken away, it can feel a little hollow. You know what I mean? And not to say I don't love working on those projects, I do, but it's just it takes away something, that kind of little glimmer of creativity that's the reason that we do why we do it. Kind of, yeah. It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same. But yeah, it's I love that you got to have much more freedom here, and that's the best part about it. As you mentioned, like animation.
Yeah.
You have so much freedom. You have so many things that you can now play on, as compared to probably in other projects where you have time limited constraints, and here you can just go by. But with, as you mentioned, like that it's a big show. You're going in and playing this character. Was the first day had like you having pressure on you, like, okay, how do I even go, because it's such a big role? Was there something like that, or did you know how to kind of calm yourself down and push through, or what was going on?
Well, what was going on was, so that my first session was the first day of lockdown, and so what was really going on was I almost didn't do the session, and there was a lot of convincing to keep the studio open because I was like, I need the money, and also I knew what was about to happen. And I didn't want to not record my first session, and then, for example, they scrap my character, swap actors, recast. All that stuff happened, by the way, during the pandemic. There was a lot of recasting, a lot of projects were cancelled, or all kinds of things. There was a lot of projects that just did not make it through that period. So I was panicking about that because I got this role, and I thought, oh no, is this project still going to go ahead when everything's shutting down? Is this character, will they maybe have lots of time to think over when it's, the lockdown, and then they'll just scrap the character? So that was kind of colored the experience a lot because I was panicked about that. But to be honest, like, the session itself was just a delight because I felt really thrilled to have been cast for the role. It felt like a dream come true, really. And playing with the scenes and things, I found really grounding. It helped ground me into the art and the character, so all those kind of worries just melt away. So yeah, that's kind of what it was like, and I really enjoyed the sessions. Honestly, like, I loved working with the director, Amanda Wyatt. She's really amazing. There was writers in this session. It was just really creatively fulfilling.
Wow.
To be honest,
yeah,
it was really a joy. I loved it. Yeah.
When the show is being created, things are being still worked upon, animations are still happening, a lot of things have been going on. What was when did you find out how your character actually looks like?
I'm trying to remember. I think about a year into recording, I got some early sketches of the character, but she evolved quite a bit. To my memory, she seemed to get cuter and cutesier until she had this little girly cuteness about her. To begin with, I feel like I'd need to look at those early sketches. There was a bit of a more womanly look to her at the beginning, and then she got really cutesy. But they used my images and things to draw the character, so my features and stuff, and some of the video we recorded. So that was kind of a trip too, because I was like, well, I know I'm cute, but am I this cute with the freckles and I was like, this is unbearable. Now I understand why they made her so cutesy, of course, you know from watching the show, and I think it played really, really well for that character. But yeah, seeing those sketches was trippy, and then really what was the most trippy thing was seeing a sort of animatic, or a more advanced animatic of the first of Maddie's first scene, and seeing her moving and sort of how much of my essence had been captured in the character. That was a wild experience. Because that scene is so beautiful, that opening scene for Maddie, like the way it's painted with the light coming in the backdrop and all the details. I couldn't believe I was part of something so beautiful. I literally had tears in my eyes watching it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting to be part of something so stunningly beautiful. That was amazing too.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's so cool. Getting to know, like, it's wonderful to say like how the character got cuter and cuter, because that's one of the things when I saw that character for the first time and I was like, she is so cute right now. Like, this is great. I am rooting for her from the very get-go. And then we ended the show. I'm like, yes, I'm still rooting for. I'm just, it's just like I love the character and how she was, and when first impression was really great. And I was like right in. I'm like, okay, new character. I'm loving her, and it just all was so good. And How many people must have reached out to you saying that how cute Maddie is? I mean, I'm assuming people must have told you like, oh, she's the cutest.
So many. There were so many memes of people like, I think it was people that were holding cats, and then they'd Photoshop like Maddie instead of the cat, like someone just stroking a sort of severed head of Maddie. And it was like, she's a cinnamon roll. We love her so much. Protect her at all costs. Like I would die for her. And I was like, all right. And then when I saw that happening, I was like, oh wow, it was actually quite a surprise. I was like, they really love this guy. I knew they would like her, but I was like, oh my God, people have really taken to this character. And then there was others that were like, she's too cute. She's sus. Something's wrong with her. And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
sure, don't judge so soon. I mean, she's fine.
Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, I suppose if you're going to judge a book by the cover is a cute marshmallow, a cute squishy marshmallow. And so, yeah, it was interesting to see that all play out. That was really, really fun. But there's still tons of Maddie defenders that are just defending Maddie and her cuteness. And I'm like, yes, orange, what did they call themselves? Someone told me yesterday it's some sort of server. Is it orange server because the ginger thing? That was another thing about when you're talking about the character becoming progressively cuter. I don't know if this is true, but this is my perception, is the character became more and more ginger. Because when I think the character was originally blonde, and then I think that she became strawberry blonde. And then when I saw when the show came out, everyone was like, oh, ginger. And I was like, ginger. And I have voiced other ginger characters, and I thought, this is my chance to break away. I mean, not that I love a ginger, beautiful, but I thought this is my chance to break away from that stereotype of like the Celtic ginger. And then when it came out, I saw that she was very ginger, and I thought, oh man,
well, that's not going away, I guess. Yeah,
it's not going away. I've been typecast again. Darn it. It'd be more awkward if I was ginger, I think because I'm not ginger, I think I'd pull it off. If I was ginger, it'd be a bit like, get a life. We get it. Yeah. You're ginger and you play gingers.
No, I understand. Yeah. Oh my God. I think this is the part where we have to go to the spoiler part of things, because I mean, at this point, anybody who's watching and listening, if you have not watched all episodes of Arcane season 2, this is it. You have to step out if you haven't watched it, because we're gonna go right in. And I just, because the part I loved is from the very first episode. I feel like the way episode ended, everybody's like gearing up, pulling up their guns and everything and ready. And the song of, because I love Linkin Park, so the song of Heavy is the Crown playing. And it just is so powerful right there. And everybody is posing so well. Like, you know, like a amazing superhero pose kind of thing. How was that scene when you saw that scene? What were you thinking?
Wild. All of the strike team stuff, where it's just all the stuff as a group. I mean, that was really cool. Yeah. Because I remember thinking, oh my God, this character is more badass than I thought she was. All of the animation of like them kind of as the strike team and all. I mean, that was just mind blowing. I was like, wow. I was like, I'm part of something cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. It had a real impact on me. And bearing in mind, I saw this stuff for the first time in the studio while I was recording. Because there's also, for bits like that, there was so many efforts to do, which is all this sort of exertions and this sort of reactions to things, and everything from like breathing to like a little giggle, or like you've fallen over, or all that kind of stuff. And so I was sort of, doing all that stuff when I saw all these scenes play out. So I'm just standing in front of the mic and these scenes are playing out in front of me, and I was jaw dropping. I was like, what? This show keeps getting cooler and cooler. Just when I thought it couldn't get any cooler, some cool visual, like something, a new song, or there's, I know some of the parts of the show were like drawn in charcoal. There was like watercolor, like it was absolutely like, it's just a work of art. It was a masterpiece. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Wild.
I think Maddie is as a character, and I was so happy that we getting this new character, and she was so as a fan, like meeting Vi and being like, it's so good to have you on the team, and good players are still in here, and she was like congratulating and bringing her in, and I was seeing all of them together, and the next episode we're seeing like all of them kind of like going in and trying to fight. It was so good to see the team up, and it was so incredibly different when the second act starts, where everything kind of shifts and changes. What was your reaction when you first found out that Cait and Maddie are going to have a thing?
So I knew early on because they'd been playing with that idea from the beginning, but they just didn't know how they were going to exactly execute it. So I knew that I was going to potentially be another option for Cait, or that I was going to disrupt that very sacred relationship in some way and ruffle some feathers. So I knew that was going to happen. Now, and this is another thing I underestimated. I honestly thought people might be like, oh, this is an interesting option for Cait, but not understanding how fiercely protective the fandom are of that Cait Vi union. And so Amanda, the writer, was like, oh, people are going to be pissed off at you. Like, people are going to be so mad. And I was like, really? Like, are they going to be that mad? Or are they going to think, oh, that she's cute, that she deserves a shot? And Amanda was like, no one's going to think that. And I was like, really? And so, but I saw that scene for the first time I did a live stream with Amanda, on a YouTuber's, channel, and I watched it for the first time because I hadn't seen it. I mean, I knew I'd done the dialogue for the scene, but I hadn't seen the scene all come together. And seeing it for the first time, I definitely had a similar reaction, because you hear Maddie off screen and then suddenly, like, you see her peeking into frame, and I was like, oh no, like, what? This is crazy. And so I kind of got it then. I was like, oh yeah, this is people calling it a jump scare. I was like, this is kind of a jump scare. This is a shocker, because there's a shift in time too. I think it's quite jarring for people, that sort of the opening of that second act. And actually, not to skip ahead to the third act did that as well with episode 7. The opening of the opening of when in the third act, episode 7 was so unexpected too. Yeah. Like, they opened each act with something just completely. Yeah. Something that you didn't see coming.
Yeah, something you didn't see coming. I think even in season 1, they did the similar thing where it was divided into acts, and that's how it went. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. Like, and I loved how when they released these episodes, it was like 1 act, 3 episodes, we're going to release it at once, and the next act is going to come next week. So it kind of like went with that, and everybody was like following in that way. Unless like people are watching obviously now as well, they want to watch all of the 9 episodes all together, which is great. But it was such a, for everybody, I think majority of the people, the reaction was, well, I did not see that coming. Like, absolutely no one expected Cait and Maddie. And I literally thought, like, okay, Maddie, if she was going to go with someone, it might be Vi. She might be interested in Vi because of the first initial reaction. Never expected with Cait. And I was like, well, I'm all in for it. Like, I didn't mind. I was like, this is great. I love this.
You're like, oh, this is dramatic. Yeah, it was funny because I think that's what's genius about that opening scene with Vi too, because like you say, if anything, you kind of feel like, oh, does she have a crush on Vi? Is this potentially, is she flirting with Vi? Yeah. And so, yeah, part of the genius of how the writers crafted the show, that you just did not see it coming.
Did not see it coming.
And I loved it. I've loved all the reactions. That's when the hate started. That's when the trauma started, Abhi, with season 2. I thought, oh, people are a little mad. Like, I mean, there was like sort of TikTok rants and stuff, and a lot of just, how dare she, like, and all. And I thought, yeah, I'm kind of, and actually, I'll be honest, even when that all started, the part of me that just wants, the broken child inside me, Abhi, that just wants to be loved, was like, oh no, love me. And I had to actually stay, there was a day where I felt a bit sad reading all the hatred. I was like, oh, this is sad for me and sad for Maddie. And then I stepped out of that and thought, no, you're an actor. This is exciting to play a role that provokes so much deep, visceral feelings in people, all kinds of feelings, right? Hatred and anger and adoration. Like, I mean, it's, for me, that's as a artist and as an actor, that's really exciting. But I just had to separate that from my little, because I was a little sad. The little puppy dog inside me was like, boo.
Yeah,
love me.
Totally understand that. Like, I mean, you've worked on this character for so long, and anything as a character, as you work on it, you obviously like the character in that way, and you're playing it because you're playing it, so it's all you. Like, and so you obviously love the character so much, you want everybody else to love it as well. But based on how a story is going and how things are, things can change. And I think one of the things that you mentioned, like, where people were a little bit angry, which I kind of was surprised by as well, because I can see in Act 3 why, towards the end, but I just never understood the act second where I saw these
Right.
tweets where people are saying Maddie did nothing wrong. And I was like,
Yeah.
she did wrong? Like I had that question. Like, I don't think she did wrong. Like, so like that's what I had. But I saw those things. Like Maddie was wrong and did nothing wrong. And these were the two things was going on. I was like, wow, this is wild. Never expected this happening. Yeah, it was so.
No, it was wild. And a lot of people were like, I would have done the same. We would have all done the same because we all wanted to be with Cait or whatever. There was a lot of people started like justifying it. And then there was a lot of like kind of jealous reaction as well. Like almost like jealous on behalf of Vi. Like it was very complicated. Like, this is not, she's not good enough for Cait for whatever. And at that point in the story, I thought actually, she seems like she is good enough. She seems like quite a viable option for Cait. They're she's a respectful young lady and someone that her mother would have approved of. And I thought, she ticks a lot of boxes as an option for Cait. But then I also knew that things were gonna go south in the next act. So I was like, I didn't want to try and sell that too much because I didn't want then when Act 3 came out, people to be like, you lied to us.
You built us
deceived them.
Yeah.
I know. I didn't want to, I had to be careful, especially on social media. I had to be, I did a couple of things. I posted a couple of tweets and stuff to rile people up, but I didn't want to do too much because I thought I actually don't want to lead people to believe, falsely lead people to believe that it's going to play out.
Yeah. Otherwise
in a specific way. Yeah. Then I would have received the brunt of their hatred.
Oh, God.
But I would have hated it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Act 3, the first episode, was very interesting because Vi enters the scene and she is very angry that she her sister is arrested, and Cait tells Maddie to like leave the room and go, and Maddie's like, I think looking around is just very angry, and I'm always wondering like what happened if Cait was not in the room, it was just Maddie and Vi, and what would Maddie say to Vi? I'm just always curious. Like, I believe she must have said something.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what she would have said, but she says a lot of the right things, Maddie.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was interesting about when Maddie was brought into the story is it, and potentially as a romance for Cait, she kind of is a more ideal partner than Vi, especially Vi, who'd gone off the rails in that second act, and so that was interesting because I saw some TikTok videos where people were like, ha ha, she doesn't love you. She loves Vi, and we had that kind of sad little moment. And actually, a lot of people thought that was her. A lot of people thought that was the catalyst. Like that was her sort of origin story, like her villain origin story, where she was like, "I've been shunned. My girlfriend shunned me for this other girl." Because there's a moment where she kind of steps out, and you see her looking a little bit disappointed, and people were like, "Was that the moment that she decided to turn?" And I was like, "No." Like,
yeah, I wonder, like, oh, she's listening. Like she didn't go completely out of the room and walked away. She was like staying a little bit and trying to, and I was like, okay, I can see like what's happening.
Yeah. So then with the next reveal, it became apparent that was, but yeah, I think that's the thing with Maddie. We see that in the sort of intimate scene with Cait too. I mean, she just is, Maddie's purpose in that scene was to be like little angel on Cait's shoulder, and she believes in her and supports her and sees her. And so, and gains her, they have a trusted, loyal relationship at this point because quite a lot of time has passed. They've been together in a high stakes situation in a sort of intimate kind of quarters, and no surprise that things happen.
Yeah, and
stuff happened,
and things were shocking for everybody to see that, but I think the shock factor just went up, and like at the end of the whole show, shock factor just like whoa, and Maddie obviously just turning on everybody. Why do you think, even like according to you, like why do you think Maddie turned on Cait?
I think someone had summarized this in a way that I thought was really interesting. Someone said she didn't betray Cait, she was just loyal to Ambessa. And I thought that was interesting. She is a Noxian, that she's like through and through. It's in her blood. It's in her entire being, And so Maddie wasn't doing anything that she thought wasn't right and for the greater good in that sense. And so, She should be forgiven.
I was very happy because a lot of people are either angry or like, oh, like, or in shock. I was like, somehow like, because she was like kind of like a villain. I was like, oh, this is great. I love like every second of it. And there was this, and some people are nuts online and for multiple reasons. And I wanna show one reason right now, which is basically when people kind of go frame by frame for some, like somehow like they go frame by frame and they're saying
I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. Okay.
I actually wanted to show you where people actually found a frame at the time when she was trying to shoot Cait, and there's this smile.
I know
that she has.
So I've looked into this. Okay, no, I've looked into the theories. Some people say it's her collar. Some people say it's her smile. It looks like a big wide Cheshire cat toothy smile. Yeah. That's not a coincidence, obviously, because that's what when I saw that, and then so from there people were like, this character's a psychopath. She's a sociopath. And I thought it was a little hard to defend after seeing that. That's really sinister and dark. That frame. And I missed that actually when I think because when we watched it, because I went to the shrine in LA for the event there, so saw the last act on the big screen with like an audience, like thousands of people in the audience. It was really exciting, but I missed that frame. But it was probably because the audience were just screaming, like, and cheering, like when the bullet kind of ricocheted back. Oh my God, the death! Yeah, it was outrageous. The sort of expression of emotions, and I was so overwhelmed. I was like screaming. I was like screaming with them, and I was like, oh. And I missed that frame. And then afterwards, when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's cold. That is dark. But what I noticed, and I noticed it while I was watching it, and I noticed it when I've rewatched that scene, I think you see a flash of remorse for just a split second. Like if you watch that moment between Maddie and Cait, there's a flash of remorse before Maddie attempts to shoot Cait. And I think that's interesting too. There's something to that. There's more going on there. And so make what you want of that.
Yeah, I think
go back and rewatch it. Let me know what you think.
I don't know what it is with you, because and I hope it's not, because people sometimes go way too far and start sending threats and stuff like that, and on online, and they cannot make a separation for some reason. So like, have fans been kind of like calling you out in that certain regard? Because I've seen some of those, so that's why I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to say I've had death threats. I've had like. Maybe it is. I've had people like, I'm gonna kill you or whatever. I think the way I hear it in my head is like when I'm a kid and I didn't tidy my room. My mom was like, I'm gonna kill you, like tidy your room. I thought it was kind of they were saying it in a funny way, but I don't know how funny that is. And now I'm like, is my life in danger? Like I don't.
One of the things that I thought was really fun to explore in the show as well in Act 3 itself was, I think, episode 8, when we get to see alternate timelines, and it was really cool.
It's episode 7. Oh yeah, isn't that me?
Yeah, I think it was in 8 when we get to see that. I think so.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah. Is that not? Am I thinking of the same? Oh yeah, when it's the alternate, the alternate reality. I think it's 7, but I might be.
I think I might be wrong.
I think it opens.
So don't quote me on that. But I might be wrong about that.
Was an incredible. That's Amanda's episode. One of Amanda's episodes. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. Just the best. I love that. Yeah.
We had to see Powder all grown up. Oh my God. I mean,
I just remember with that scene, I think I just remember the dance, and I'm like, this is.
Yeah. That song right now is top of my list. It's top of my list on my playlist. Isn't that amazing? The French song. Yeah.
It's just so good. I think when I was listening to on YouTube, because it just came out. I was like, oh, I'm going to listen and I'm going to see what people are saying. And I saw some of the people who knew French, they're like, only if you knew what the lyrics meant, it was even more beautiful. I'm like,
I know. I actually did look up the.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was pretty good at French, but I need to look up what these lyrics mean. And then, yes, when I was reading the lyrics, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like French poetry is really moving.
Really moving. And I love that, of that alternate reality. And I was wondering, like, what would Maddie be doing in an alternate universe, alternate timeline?
Well, it depends on about a gazillion factors. Because as you saw in the alternate timeline there, everything pivots around everything else. So in that timeline, like Vi had to go while Powder thrived. And so I think it would depend on a multitude of factors. But I believe there's an alternate timeline where Maddie is a true ally to Cait and Vi. And there's a strong, tight-knit friendship there. And the war never happened, and they're just like hanging out.
Perfect. Like the ideal life. Yeah.
Or the last drop or something. Yeah, they're just hanging out. Yes, I do. And I think there's, look, I mean, I need to be careful because I feel like this would bring up, I like to think there's some goodness in everyone, at least a little moment. So yeah, I like to think that there's a side to the way we saw her at her most joyful and optimistic and idealistic and wide-eyed and youthful and hopeful at the start. I like to think there's an alternate timeline where that side to Maddie is allowed to blossom and thrive.
Yeah, I think that exists, because if Jinx had that kind of moment, even though like it was on expense of why, but even that she had that thing where she is, it looks completely different, feels completely different. I think Maddie will have that too, and then I would love to see that. To be honest.
So.
As well, like
I would love to. Someone should fanfic it. There's been a lot of fan fiction, which I need to dabble in some of that and check it out. But that would be interesting if someone wants to do a little fanfic of an alternate timeline with Maddie.
Absolutely,
I would love to read. Yeah,
it would be wonderful. Yeah, I think people would definitely create that. And I think
what could have been.
What could have been.
Abhi.
What could have been, yeah. Well, Katie and I had a lot to talk about, whether it's Arcane 2 or some of our own opinions. And you can watch a 30-minute extended episode by becoming a member of the channel. You can do that by clicking on the join button. This really helps out my podcast in making sure that I make the best episode possible every single week. So for that, thank you very much. I mean, to be honest, if we would have seen that one, I think it would not be as powerful as we got to see now.
No.
Like, the powerful moments that actually literally took everyone's attention from what's happening like in the world, like the war took attention with what Maddie did. And the one line that I will always remember was like, I did appreciate your warmth before.
Cold.
Very cold. Was that, like, is there something that goes, like how much went into going or doing that line? Was that something that was specific, or it was just like any other line?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that line actually. I did numerous takes of that line because we wanted it to get to be just right. And there were takes there with a little sort of warmth in the inflection and a little gratitude in the inflection. There were takes that were just a little bit more sort of seething aggression. There was all kinds of takes, and I think the take that they chose they really nailed it, because it was cold. I mean, that was cold. And actually it was one of my favorite lines to deliver. And then it did make me wonder how much Maddie did really appreciate the warmth and connection with Caitlin. I like to think there was some appreciation for that, and that there was some truth to their connection. But others might have their own theories.
Others have questions on that. Like, did she know?
Yeah. Well, and because some people can't see past their own hate. Like some people, these emotions are so powerful that some people, in the same way that when Maddie's introduced at the in the first act, people were so overwhelmed by their love of her that they couldn't think critically to consider that she might be a spy, or she might have, negative. There might be sort of a threatening element to her. Like people, I think these emotions are so powerful that they overwhelm us, and sometimes it gives us tunnel vision and we're not able to think critically and zoom out and see a potential bigger picture there. And I think the same goes with the hatred for Maddie. I think there's a lot of people that are just laser focused on hating her, that don't want to acknowledge the sort of all of the human nuances that this character also possesses.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think, that moment is so powerful, and there's so many wonderful lines. And one of the lines is one of my favorites. Probably is my favorite. Is I think who says? I think it was Echo who says it initially in that alternate timeline, where sometimes taking a leap forwards means leaving few things behind. And I love that line.
Yes.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you had to leave behind to move forward in your life?
Oh wow, that's a powerful question. I mean, in the literal sense, I moved out to LA to pursue my dreams when I was in my early 20s, and I literally left my family behind. And it's something that at the time could I do that now at the age I'm at now? Probably not, because like the older we get, the more we overthink everything. But it was just, I made that leap, and I still, it still makes me emotional to remember the morning I got on the flight with like my family. I actually had a boyfriend at the time who I left behind. We ended up having a 2-year long distance relationship, and then it just didn't work out. But it was like my boyfriend, my mum and her partner, and one of my best friends all saying goodbye to me at the airport. And I remember the feeling viscerally of going through the gates and turning around and taking like a mental snapshot of them. And I knew I would see them again, in months or, but it was like, this is the end of a chapter. Like I have, and what, this is my family, and I am walking away to start a new chapter on my own. And I was so young and so starry-eyed, and I just remember walking through the airport. I felt numb to the core. And then there was some lady at duty free, like, who was holding a tray with like shots of vodka samples, and I was like oh my God, I've just left my family and like knocked back a couple of shots. I mean, I was just like, honestly. And so in that sense, that was, I left my entire life behind to pursue this. So definitely that. And then there's other things that I've, things to do with myself that I've tried to leave behind that keep clinging on. Like I have like lifelong anxiety that I've been trying to like get away from me, like shed for years. And that's taken a long time to shed myself of that, to leave that behind. I used to be a little bit of like a people pleaser, and I've tried to leave that behind. There's sort of elements to myself that weren't serving me. Some of those elements have been easier to leave behind than others, or some have been a bit of a struggle. But yeah, there's certain parts of so in that sense, there's certain parts of myself, trauma from the past, that kind of stuff. I've tried to leave that in the past. I've tried to leave that behind so that I can move forward to thrive.
As I mentioned before, when I posted out on social media that you're going to be a guest, people had questions, and I would love for you to answer some of the fan questions.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the first one from Brively. They ask, the women in this show are so beautifully written, with so much complexity and range of emotions. Maddie is now forever a part of that. How does that feel to know?
It feels like a dream. I mean, honestly, like I've been acting for a long, long time, and many of those years have been an incredible struggle. And when I moved to LA, I was auditioning for a lot of like TV stuff on camera. And what I found, which really eventually ended up steering me away from that pocket of the industry, what I found was that a lot of the characters were just underwritten, to say the least. But a lot of the female characters, their role was as an accessory to the male characters, and they weren't fleshed out, and they were kind of weird stereotypes, or they were like fetishized or sexualized. This is a bit naughty, but I'll say it because I need to say it, because I remember years ago, I'd been going out for TV roles, and it was all these same kind of female roles, like the girl, the hot girlfriend, and the blah, 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 all the stuff. And then there was this part, and it said the character's name that I was reading for, and then the description of the character. This is going to be rude and naughty, so I apologize. It said, gives hand jobs by the second. Looks like she gives hand jobs by the second. That was the description of this character.
Wow.
And I was like, hang on a minute. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, oh my God, that's so disgusting. And I was like, and it was a man that had written this, and it was just a certain type of man that none of us like.
Yeah.
And I just thought, was so demeaning and soul destroying, and there was just a lot of that. And then really I found my footing getting into video games, where I got to play all these interesting, intelligent, dynamic, kick-ass women, Maddie included. And so it's been a slow burn to get there. There was years of this, right, struggling to find these kinds of roles. Those roles have just happened to materialize in video games, and now, you know, in animation. And so how do I feel about it? It is a dream come true. It's been a long time coming, and it has like shaped me and my work in unimaginable ways. And I'm so grateful, very grateful.
That's wonderful. I love that.
That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
I loved it. I love long answers. It shows how much it means to you. And I love that, the fact that you're now you're getting these projects where you have these meaningful characters, and it's very important to have such meaningful characters, because, you know, sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're, as you mentioned, overly sexualized and in different ways. So I'm so glad that at least, if anything, like maybe shows and animated shows do not do that, maybe at least if they're video games, that will do that. There's some animation projects that will do that. So I'm happy that you get to be part of such a cool project that has such an incredible character, fleshed out first, and then later on things are added. It's just the best. The next question comes from Spider West. They asked, did you know Maddie was going to work for M-Pesa from the beginning, or was that a twist for you later on?
It was a twist for me, and it was a shocker. Now, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell, because when I was at the finale event in LA and talking to the team, one of the team members said something like, "Oh, it was so fun eventually telling you that Maddie was going to become who she." And I was like, "Wait, I thought it was a decision they made during a couple of years into the project, but I think maybe they knew all along and just didn't tell me."
Yeah.
And because when I recorded that first scene, I had no idea. Like, that's why there's just so much. I think that's why the scene plays so well, is because as an actor, I didn't think there was any other agenda there. And so I was actually just playing that scene very authentically. And so, yeah, I didn't know. And when I found out, I was like, damn it. Why? Because, again, it was that whole thing we spoke about earlier, separating the me that just wants to be loved and play lovable characters that everyone likes. And that's, you know, and then also the artist and actor in me that was like, oh, this character just got a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So that was kind of amazing. But I was a bit bummed about it for a little while, and then I was like, you know, this is gonna be interesting. All right, okay, fine.
And it became so interesting. Love that it brought that kind of reaction as well. And I like, was that at that point in time, like you mentioned, like you were trying to separate at the same time, where you want the character to be loved, but obviously at the same time it is important. Like when you got to know about that okay, this is happening, was that in some way kind of also letting you know, like changing your performance for those scenes? Was that a thing, or that you had to like really?
No, because I still loved her, so I still approached my playing of the character with like lots of love and empathy for her.
Yeah,
I'm very empathetic of the character. So yeah, it didn't change. It didn't color my view of the character. I don't dislike the character. I love her.
Yeah,
she's my baby.
Yes, she's
best. My little ginger snap.
Oh my god, that's so cool. Next question is from Purin. They ask, are there any scenes that you recorded that didn't make into the final cut?
No, I believe everything we recorded for the most part, and I think that's what I heard the writers and producers talking about. I think everything we recorded made the final, because it's so expensive. To every sort of minute of the show costs a fortune. So I think nothing was wasted. I think everything that they intended to, that was going to have its place in the final show, made it and was there. So yeah, to my knowledge, don't quote me in there. I don't know. Maybe ask Amanda. I don't know.
Well, who knows? I mean,
not everything I'd recorded. Everything I'd recorded made it into the show. That's what I know.
That's all you can say. That's for sure.
That's all I can say.
Next question is from SMI at work. They ask, if you had been offered to voice any other characters from the show, who would you have picked and why?
Oh my God. I think I would have liked to voice, well, Jinx would have been a dream, because when have we ever seen it? Probably Jinx actually to voice. I was going to maybe say Vi, because Vi is one of my favorites and became probably my favorite in season 2. Because she's just such a like tough, rebellious, strong, fierce, badass woman. But Jinx is just so, I mean, as an actor, that that kind of role is an absolute dream, you know, such a sort of poetic, broken, multifaceted, vulnerable character with just, I mean, I don't even need to describe her because we all know how she made us feel. I would have loved to have sunk my teeth into a character like that. That would have been incredible. Ella Purnell knocked it out of the park. It's an incredible performance from her. I'm so glad she's getting the appreciation she deserves for that role, because what she did with Jinx was just nothing short of spectacular. So, but yeah, Jinx.
Jinx, yes. I mean, she
Yeah.
has so many layers on
So
her.
many.
So many. And even season 2, like by third act, like we see even more like the actually true broken. It was like there's so much going on in there, which I totally can imagine. Like, okay, that as an actor playing that character, there's so much in there that you can, so much to do, and it's just something that anybody would love to do.
Yeah. She's infinitely layered and profoundly complex, and would be a dream. Yeah. In another life, or maybe in this life, maybe there'll be a character like that I get to play at some point. Yeah, I'd love it.
Absolutely, that would be lovely. Next question is from Bean Curd. They like did the Bean Curd. So lovely names that people have. Did the writers ever have other plans for the character, or was she planned to be the spy all along?
Well, it's like I mentioned earlier. I thought they did. I thought she was meant to be. Originally, she was meant to be a sort of ally, and this kind of the new enforcer, and who gets kind of tangled up with a bit of a triangle, gets tangled up with Cait. But to my knowledge, she was never meant to be a spy. And I thought they just at some point decided, they were like, oh, let's do this. This will be fun. But it seems like I was lied to. And it seems like that might have been the plan, if not all along, for a long time. I think I was kept in the dark. But yeah, you'd need to ask the writers. Yeah, I think you need to ask the writers about that. But that had been the plan for quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the writers did have that plan and be like, oh gosh, can we say that to Katy? That's nuts. Let's keep like that's just...
Yeah, because it momentarily devastated me. I was like, oh no, like no, that was literally, I thought, oh man, like I was like, have I done something wrong? Do they not like me? Am I like
I can totally understand. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah,
that's how it is. Little Nick 88 has a question.
Little
Nick. Was there ever a point where Maddie could have simply been a character in a one-sided love story with Caitlyn instead?
Instead of the way things played out?
Yes.
I think so, because I felt really sorry for Maddie in those, and the animators depicted this beautifully. I'm saying we've all, but I don't know if we all have. I certainly have. If you're taking the sort of the turn of events from Act 3 out of it, I basically the sort of that portion of her character arc out of it. We've all been a Maddie. We've all been shunned. We've all had moments of suffering and unrequited love. And so yeah, I think there's a reality where there's an alternate reality where she was just deeply infatuated with Cait and loyal to a fault. And a lot of people, especially when the earlier theories were floating about, a lot of people thought she was going to end up taking a bullet for Cait. They were like, we know this girl's going to die, but but they were like, oh, she's maybe, there was alternate kind of ideas that she might take. I think there's, like we're talking about this sort of in an alternate storyline, there might have been an alternate storyline where she was kind of like long, in this unrequited one-way situationship with Cait and ended up taking a bullet for her, which would have been extremely, extremely tragic. But we kind of got a bit of that actually through the character of Isha's arc. We kind of got some of that feeling that kind of filled that role of like this kind of innocent child that ended up sacrificing herself. So we did kind of get that. So I think Maddie, the way that they crafted Maddie's arc definitely served a purpose that needed to be served.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, that kid scene was like brutal.
It was brutal.
Yeah, just
it was
tears.
It was devastating.
Yeah, just tears running down. Like, why? I'm watching it at midnight. I'm like, why did I watch it at midnight?
Can so I? Sad.
Yeah. It was.
I know. Just to cry yourself to sleep. Listen, no judgment. We've all done it.
We've all done it. Yeah. Last question comes from Incognito Dream. Were there any particularly difficult parts to voice as Maddie? If so, what were they and why?
Difficult parts to voice as Maddie. Well, I think to be honest, the most challenging portion to voice was that kind of intimate scene with Cait, because there's a lot of, and a credit to the writers, there's just a lot of nuance in that scene. And I think I can't remember if I already knew how things were going to turn in the final act, but I just remember we spent a lot of time on that scene, and I think we might have redone it again. Like, I think I went back in for another session, and I think I actually got to hear. I think what was challenging about it is it's such an intimate scene between two characters, and myself and Katie, the actress who plays Cait, we're not in the same room, and so it's very difficult to capture that intimacy without actually being in the room with someone. So I think that was really was the main part of the challenge, and so I think they eventually played my clips to her or vice versa, but we both got to hear each other and react to the character in that way. But that was quite a layered scene, because again, Maddie is presented as the sort of angel on her shoulder, but there's also these added, it was just complicated. It's all just a symphony of just trying to get everything just right. And so, yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. That was quite a challenge, actually, but I did enjoy that scene.
Yeah.
Very, very much. Yeah.
That is a very, as we mentioned before, that is a very interesting scene for a lot of people on the shock factor and everything. Yeah,
it's really interesting and really nuanced, and so we definitely spent a lot of time making it just right, like kind of tonally, just getting it right. So yeah.
I think it is important to get that right, because then you will have that feeling that everybody had when they saw that episode or that part. Yeah. And I think
that's what it is. They're looking for a feeling.
Yeah.
In each moment, and it's like, what's the best way to capture the sentiment of this? And so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So good. Everything, I have to say, everything that has happened in Arcane, from I said every single frame in the show has been just wonderful. Every single thing that we have seen, every single thing that we heard, listened, music, characters, story arcs, all these different characters have been so wonderful, and your character has been so great, and obviously in a way controversial at the same time, where people I love to discuss about all these things, which is really, really fun to see. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time today with me to talk about all of these things. It's just been wonderful to know so much from you. It's just so good. So thank you so much.
Abhi, this has been amazing. Abhi Ja, that is a star-studded name right there. And I'm so, honestly, and this has been probably, can I say this? Because it's going to be online and people are going to get mad, but this is the best interview I've done. Oh, honestly.
That means
no, it really is, because I just love to just scrape away the small talk and just get right into the bones and the juice. And I love just having that kind of deep human connection with other people. And you just bring that to the table right away. And so what a beautiful quality to bring to the table.
Appreciate that.
In the way that you do. So yeah, this has been really lovely. I've loved chatting to you. Honestly, it's been just such a pleasure. I'm so glad you love the show as much as I do as a fan. And this has been the greatest thing I've ever worked on. I don't know where to go from here, Abhi. What am I going to do with my life? That's been something, actually, like, with the conclusion of the show and stuff. There's been definitely moments of like, what am I going to do now? To seek out that creative fulfillment, when you work on such a triumph in a masterpiece. Like, oh my God, where do I know? I don't know. To be determined. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can have that feeling of like, oh, now, like a half, like a hollow shell at this point, or something like that, where it's something has left,
Yes,
avoid.
I think that's like, it's funny because there was an Australian guy came onto my who's he's got autism spectrum disorder. He was on the live stream yesterday. Lovely guy, but he was talking about how he I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning because he mentioned this on the live stream, but he went through a lot of grief in recent years, losing his mum and things like that, and sort of found a passion for acting and doing acting workshops. But he was feeling down because he'd done this workshop and had really enjoyed himself, and then the workshop had kind of finished, and it was that feeling of like hollowness of like, as artists and actors, we chase this sort of creative fulfillment and these kind of shots of mad passion and creative delight, and when it's over, it's like there's high highs and low lows. It can leave you feeling a little bit hollow, and just a sort of sense of like it's just the void, isn't it? It's that there's usually a void, and it's like, well, what else do I go to therapy? Do I work on another like if I another project? But that keeps us chasing, right? Keeps us chasing more. And so I think that affects all of us, in life and in our creative lives as well. So
one of the things that I ask some of the actors is like, if you go back in time and to your younger self, the one who was leaving the airport, what would you say to her?
I mean, honestly, I just want to go back in time and take my hand and not say anything. I just want to like take my hand and lead myself into the future with confidence and with love. And because I mean, I admire my past self too. I feel like looking back, I'm like, that was brave. What you did was really brave. I suppose I would go back and remind myself how brave I was, because there was so many moments of self-doubt during that time. And and also I'm not sure, see, when you're that age, I don't know if you've really learned to love yourself yet. And so, and I think I was quite self-critical at that time. There was a lot of rejection and things early in my career, and it really, like you're talking about, it really got to me, it really got into my skin. And I would just want to tell myself to like keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going, keep believing in yourself, keep loving yourself, all the stuff. Yeah. I would have loved to have been my own voice of wisdom through a time warp of some kind. I would have loved it. I would have loved to have been able to be that voice of reason and guidance for myself.